One of my very first experiences with art was through the Virginia Museum Artmobile. And it was in Farmville, Virginia, my hometown, which is about 65 miles west of where we sit here in Richmond. And one day there was this strange looking trailer, this big gray trailer that was up on jack stands in the middle of the parking lot of the old Safeway, right next to the State Theater on Main Street in Farmville. And driving to school that day, I remember looking at that out the window thinking, what is that? Virginia Museum, it says on the side of it. And later on in the week, my teacher, one of our elementary school teachers, took us on a field trip. We walked down and we saw the Artmobile. And it was like walking into this magical world in the middle of this Safeway parking lot. There was this art everywhere. And it was surprising how big it was on the inside. And we were just fascinated. You know, when I thought of art at that point, I thought of, you know, a painting of, I thought of the Mona Lisa or some Rembrandt painting, and those are wonderful, and those need to be seen too. But this sort of expanded my view of what art could be, and it was a field trip I'll always remember, and it was a great experience for all my classmates and myself. I realized looking back on it that Virginia Museum helped me at pretty much every major step of my adolescence. Earliest days introducing me to art, and then early high school introducing me to animation. And then once I was in college, I was very lucky to get to attend New York University. And there I studied filmmaking, film production. And it was a great school. It was murderously expensive. You know, my mom was amazingly sacrificing and doing what she could to pay the tuition, and I was working as much as I could to help pay the tuition, but there was quite a shortfall. And along came the Virginia Museum Fellowship to help make that money stretch, and I was very fortunate to win it twice. And it was a real godsend, because it was really hard. You know, that kind of education, it's well worth it, but very hard to afford, very hard to pay for. And these Virginia Museum Fellowships really got me through some tough times, and helped out my mom, helped me out. Now that I think about it, the second feature-length movie script I ever wrote, the first one I wrote for my class, my screenwriting class at NYU, and it got made as a movie about 10 years later. It was called Home Fries with Drew Barrymore and Luke Wilson. The second movie script I ever wrote was called Carolina Shook. And it's never been made, probably never will be, but it was the story of a guy named Biggin Sneed who ran an asphalt paving crew back in Central Virginia and was a big old boy, 6'8", probably 280. And a sweet guy until you rile him. And he was married to a very, very attractive young woman who had an identical twin sister. And the Artmobile, the Virginia Museum Artmobile, comes to, I think it was set in Farmville, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, came to Farmville, and he's told, hey, get a dose of art. So he goes in, and there is a Dwayne Hansen-esque or John D'Andrea-esque polyester sculpture of, lo and behold, his wife, and she's naked, and he freaks out, and he steals, because he can't have everyone in town seeing his wife naked, and he steals the Artmobile, and then there's complications ensue, as you would expect, and it's never quite clear whether it was his wife or her twin sister who posed for it, but it was fun. Yeah, that'd be fun to make. I don't know if that one's ever going to see the light of day, but I had fun writing it. And my time visiting the Artmobile, which I did for actually several years running back in Farmville. It came once a year to Farmville for several years running, visiting the Artmobile. No doubt was a big part of the inspiration for that. I don't know what I would do without creativity in my life. Meaning, I don't wake up every day feeling particularly inspired or creative. Some days you have it, some days you don't. Some days, some days it's there, some days it's not. But to contemplate life without it at all, without the ability to enjoy the act of creation, to write something, to draw something. Because I always loved that too. I was never good enough to do it for a living, but I love drawing and painting and sculpting. And by the way, that's a big bit of advice I would impart to young folks. It doesn't matter whether you're good enough to do it for a living. If it satisfies you, do it. You can write, you can draw, you can paint, you can compose music, you can write a play, you can... Every time you have a chance to create from nothing, from just raw material, something that previously never existed in the history of humanity, it's an amazing feeling. It's a profound feeling, and a great place to be inspired, to have your own personal creativity inspired, is your local museum. And the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts is just a wonderful asset to the people of Virginia. It's right in your neighborhood. You need to go in and check it out, because it just might change your life.